What are we gonna do when we get back?
What are we gonna do when we get back?
I take a shower and hit the rack.
Take a shower and hit the rack.
Welcome to Charlie Mike. If you're a combat veteran with an entrepreneurial bug and want to know what highly successful combat veteranpreneurs are doing to transform their sacrifice and experience to create their visual reality, then this is dedicated to your inspiring and fulfilling future. And now your host, Dwayne Paro.
No way, gotta run, feet, lots of fun.
Invest in Yourself ebook is my free gift to you for listening to the show and becoming part of the CO Nation. To receive your free gift, please go to landmarklifecoaching.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode. There are so many veterans with the core strengths to become successful entrepreneurs and continue to make a huge positive impact on our country. Here we highlight the amazing successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Combat veterans, for the purpose of this show, are soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who have served the United States in wars, campaigns, and in theater on foreign soil or hostile waters. Our guest today is Michael Tacke. Michael is a California native who joined the Army following the 9/11 attacks. Michael served in the 101st Airborne as an infantryman and later as a Green Beret in both the 10th and 5th Special Forces groups. He left the Army after 14 years in the fall of 2016 to pursue opportunities as an entrepreneur. Michael owns Veterans Heavy Haul Trucking, which provides oversized freight transportation services to customers all over the country. Additionally, Michael works at a software company, is a full-time MBA student at Lipscomb University, and is a member of the National Guard. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee with his wife Allison and their golden retriever Ari. All right, well, Mike, welcome to the show and thank you for being a guest.
Hey, thanks, Dwayne. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you tell our loyal listeners all about your journey from a combat veteran to a successful entrepreneur. So before we get into your entrepreneurial experience, can you please give our audience an overview of your military experience?
Yeah, sure. Just like you said, I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened, and so that had a big impact on me. And as soon as I graduated from high school, I went down to the recruiting office and enlisted in the Army as an infantryman. Graduated from basic training in the spring of 2003, actually in February 2003, just in time for the kickoff of the invasion of Iraq. And so I went to the 101st Airborne, and they put me on a plane the next day, went to Kuwait and participated in the invasion of Iraq, spent a year there, came back and was in the 101st for more time, went back again, the second time with them to Iraq for another year for OIF 3. After OIF 3, I got the itch to go to Special Forces, and so I went to selection in 2007, graduated from basic or the Special Forces training in 2009 and was stationed at 10th Special Forces Group, where I did a deployment to Iraq with 10th Group. While I was there with 10th Group, I had a chance to work with some of the 5th Group guys, and I really liked the Fort Campbell, Kentucky area because that's where the 101st is at, and that happened to be where 5th Group is at. So I made a little deal and was able to move over to 5th Group, and then did a deployment with 5th Group to Afghanistan in 2012, 2013. And finished up my time in 5th Group just back here in September.
Wow. So I'm not a math person, but 4 deployments sounds like a lot. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of time.
Go ahead, yeah.
But it was a lot of time, but it was, it's when you're in it, it feels like it's forever. Looking back on it, I can't believe, it was only that much time, and it just feels like another lifetime ago,
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's very admirable that you were in high school when the 9/11 attacks hit, and, there's so many people like you that say, you know what, I'm okay with that as far as I'm going to serve my country. It didn't deter you from doing it. And in fact, I mean, it's amazing that, you did 2 deployments before you even went into Special Forces, and then you did another 2 deployments. So, I mean, I thank you for your service. That is absolutely honorable and amazing that you've given that much sacrifice to our nation.
No, I appreciate that. And that's actually, I've thought about that a lot too, just looking at the other guys. And that was always a big thing, right? Whenever the guys that came in after 9/11, looking at them, you just have to be proud to be part of that group that said, you know what, because of 9/11, I'm going to join the military. And so my dad always described it as like the next greatest generation. And, I can't argue. I mean, looking at the fact that what our grandparents did, in response to the attack on Pearl Harbor, and then having to look back now and say, well, we got attacked, and so we're going to respond, it was always good to be part of that group of guys that stood up and answered that call.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great comparison, because I wholeheartedly believe that it is a great generation, and have served so well, and that's why I find it important that we be able to tell these stories that you guys have and get them out there, because a lot of veterans are so great that they are becoming entrepreneurs. They have such experience from their combat and military time that they can take those amazing core strengths and turn it into very successful businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they just translate so well, and you've been kind of honed in that fire of that bad area and that bad time, but it really prepares you for some of the adversity you come across in business and starting up a business.
Absolutely. One thing I always talk about with our guests is there's all these drawings out there of the life of an entrepreneur, and how one day you're at this high, and then, you're like, starting to second guess what you're doing. And then you're in this low trough where you're like, okay, what the heck was I thinking? And then you start coming back out of that. And that's got to be very similar to the combat experience, where, like you said, it was a long road to hoe, but when you look back, it's like, wow, that was an amazing experience. It has really prepared me for my future. And you go through those roller coasters as an entrepreneur. So yeah, I agree that is great experience that ties to it. So, speaking of that, can you give our listeners some history on what your business is about, and kind of how you decided to do the industry that you're in?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty simple story, but it's kind of family based. So let's say I met my wife Allison in 2012, and a few months after we started dating, she took me home to meet her parents out in East Tennessee, and went out there and met her mom and her dad. And I saw that her parents ran a trucking company from their home office, and her dad was just really talented at it and was making a great living doing it. And what I really liked about that was that he and his wife were doing it together. And I thought, that's the life I want to have, where my wife and I find something that we can do together. We can pay the bills, we can have a comfortable lifestyle. But, personally, I'd rather spend the majority of my time with my family than tucked away in an office somewhere, or having to spend it all with coworkers. And so, being a small business owner, you have that flexibility to kind of model your business culture the way you want. And so that's what kind of pulled me towards the idea of owning a business. And then specifically, the trucking industry, because I got to see over the course of the next few years exactly how it worked. I asked Rich a ton of questions. I actually helped him run the business for periods of time. So I got to kind of do a dry run with his business. He was a great mentor and showed me exactly what I needed to do. I got to open up the books and see how the money flowed. And so it was really kind of a great, way to kind of come into a family business, so to speak. And then when I made the commitment to leave the military and launch my own, Rich was very helpful to get my company stood up for me, to help me get everything lined up, make sure I was in compliance and had the pieces I need to be successful. And so that's how it all came about, was from the motivation to spend more time with family, to make my own living, to kind of have more of an control over the daily lifestyle I was going to have.
Yeah, that's an interesting spin on the networking aspect of being an entrepreneur. That's one thing that as an entrepreneur you have to focus so much on, is building that network of people around you to, like you said, show you the ropes, show you the ins and outs, and be able to trust that network to help you become successful, because none of us entrepreneurs can do it on our own as an individual. We need that insight. We need that help, because, I bet you're smart enough to have probably done it on your own and really figured it out over time, but it really accelerated your growth to being successful much sooner. And so so your father-in-law's business is also the same heavy trucking?
Yeah, he does the same heavy trucking as well, but we just have separate businesses and kind of have a cooperative, arrangement between the companies where, if he's got a customer that I can support that he can't get to, I'll make sure I take care of them and vice versa. And it actually works out quite nicely that way. So you kind of have a partner out there who's in the same industry who's, like you just said right there, you're going through, plowing the path for you and saying, okay, I see how this goes. And so you kind of avoid some of the pitfalls that you might come across if you try to do it on your own. I've never seen a successful entrepreneur, and I've had over the past couple of years, every week interaction with entrepreneurs in all kinds of businesses, specifically veteran entrepreneurs, and none of them are doing it successfully on their own. They all have a strong network of brothers and mentors around them to help them and support them. So you're right. It's definitely, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, you can't, and I was curious if you guys were in a cooperative role or if you were competing. So that's good that you have built that partnership in the industry, because you can really leverage each other, for those opportunities. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's still a friendly competition when you get a good deal, and but you're always happy for the for the other person on the end. There's plenty of business to go around, and so yeah, you're right, it's more cooperative than competitive.
Yeah, that's awesome. So based on your combat military experience, Mike, what core strengths could you point to that you use as an entrepreneur that you can say, I really acquired those based on my military experience?
Yeah, I've sat in and I've listened to a lot of similar interviews, and people have talked about those things, and you hear a common theme of leadership and communication skills and planning skills thrown out there, and those are all valid. But a couple that I really have just kind of been on my mind over the past year or so were resiliency and adaptability. And the resiliency part was just that ability to bounce back from a setback and learning to face your challenges. And so definitely in the military, we've all had, setbacks and gone on missions that didn't work out the way that we thought they were going to work out, right? But you've got to get back to the base. You've got to complete the mission. Then you've got to get back to the base, figure out what you did wrong, what you're going to do better next time, fix the equipment, do a little bit more training, get back out in the fight. And you've got to do that as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner. It's not going to go the way you plan. And so just that resiliency, that ability to bounce back is so key. And a lot of veterans have, got that experience in the real life that transfers over. So, and then that second part of adaptability, as a small business owner, we all get told how important, planning is, the business plan, the business case, and it's completely a valid point, and it absolutely is necessary to have those things in place. But we've all heard also from the military, right? Every plan falls apart at the first contact with the enemy. And that is so true in business, right? Because you can make this beautiful plan and it makes sense. And I mean, it might make sense that you're inviting your mentor group helps you put it together, and they say, this is the best plan you can have with the information that you can have. And it'll be a good enough plan. You go and get your funding and it's all good to go. But once you start interacting with customers and vendors and competitors, the plan starts to, if the weak spots are exposed, and you have to be adaptable, and you have to be able to look at that plan and say, where do I need to make adjustments? And where do I need to be creative and stretch resources so that I can continue to stay in business and continue to grow and meet my goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some really great points. As an entrepreneur, the best laid plan never comes to be. So what's plan B, plan C, and having the adaptability is key, because if you get set on a particular outcome, then you won't be successful. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and being able to be resilient in those ups and downs, because like I was saying earlier, in the whole diagram example, there's going to be a lot of those ups and downs, and they're going to come day to day. And so, yeah, so those are absolutely good points on, core strengths. I really focus on that with veterans that I support, is having them focus and identify those core strengths. And yeah, you're right. There's the common ones everybody goes to about communication, leadership, being, persistent, things like that. But these are two great ones that I've also heard from some veterans, but not that many. So those are some great ones to bring up.
And the cool thing about those, really is it doesn't really matter what job you had in the military. I mean, you're probably going to have develop those skills. And it doesn't matter you don't have to be a genius to have those skills. So everybody can really, pick up on those.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's not like exactly, you don't need a graduate degree to have these. A lot of these are common sense and just built within you. And the great thing about the military is they do a good job of trying to put these into everybody through the training you go through and the day-to-day requirements. And for the most part, if you allow those and you accept those to become part of you, they can only help you going forward. I know.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I've been out of the military since 1999, and I rely on everything from the years that I served, 91 to 99. I rely on that training, those skills, those values every day, and I always will. It's really, at a young age became exactly who I was, so it's a great thing.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, what advice would you give other aspiring combat veteranpreneurs, those combat veterans who want to be an entrepreneur, on things that they have to do to prepare for the journey, right? You can't just wake up one day and say, all right, I'm gonna create a heavy haul trucking company and be successful, right? You gotta, like any good mission, you gotta plan for that. What are some key things you think that an aspiring, entrepreneur really should, kind of be aware of?
That's a good question. And, to kind of keep it as broad so it can impact as many people as possible, I always think, keep learning, keep working on, focusing on personal development, right? So, and that is just general. So if it's while you're still in the military, if it's developing those core skills that we talked about, if it's being intentional about developing those core skills by, intentionally mimicking some of the leaders that you really like at work and acknowledging the shortcomings in others, working on that self-awareness, seeking out knowledge in books, talking to other people who have businesses. So really try to keep learning and develop that mindset, because as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, it's going to be, you have to run your business and you have to grow your business. And in order to grow your business, you have to continue to learn. So get in that habit young before you launch your business and develop that thirst for knowledge. Focus on personal development so that you have those skills, so that when an opportunity presents itself eventually, you're going to have, what you need in place to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, those are two great points. Again, the lifelong learning and self-development is key. And when I started out in the military, I went in the military because I was, the main reason was because it's what I always wanted to do. But I also always knew in my mind, I didn't want to go to college. I was like, oh, I'm never going to college. Well, the funny thing is, I wasn't in the military a year before I entered college. And so I did it at night and, used my GI Bill. And ever since then, I have been a lifelong learner. I went all the way to getting accepted into a PhD program, and then, have had, a slew of certifications. I have an IT background, so there's always, certifications, every so many years that have to be renewed, and PMP certification and all that. And it's really helped me in my entrepreneurial pursuits, because I know I got to keep learning. I know there's always something new to learn. Either I'm learning something about doing my business or working on my business, one of the two. And so, yeah, and you're right, once you get in that mode, and that's one thing I always relay to people that I come in contact with, is once you get in that mode, you could stay in that mode. It's hard once you get in, you get out, you get in, you get out. These fits and starts don't work as well, and you don't tend to retain it because you're not committed to it. So yeah, it's
a common thread you'll see in successful entrepreneurs. If you were to look at their life separate from their business, you're going to see these are the kind of people that have healthy habits. How much sleep they're getting and getting up and trying to exercise, and how much reading they're doing, and how they're doing side reading into their industry to try to develop a strategic perspective so they can see what's coming next. These are all things, and that's self-motivated. Nobody's telling them you have to do this, but those successful entrepreneurs are the ones that are doing that on their own. So yeah, definitely get in those habits early and develop that.
Yeah, that's a good point, the healthy aspects part, because, a lot of people will get into entrepreneurship and think they have to be so in that they have to forsake their health in the process.
No, yeah, you're right.
And and that's just it's not a long-term plan. You have to make sure that your exercise is part of your daily routine. You're eating clean the best you can, because that's hard for all of us. And getting the rest. Ariana Huffington, who started Huffington Post, she started a company called Thrive, and as a the thing that she did leading up to that was she did a big study on sleep. And in the corporate world, the big badge of honor is to say, oh, I sleep 4 hours a day. But they're not productive. It's
not productive. That's not sustainable. You're not going to be operating and we've all done it, right? We've all done, and there's going to be moments where you're not going to be able to avoid it, but you need to try to come back and say, you know what, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon, and I've got to, I can't take a sick day, especially when you're just starting out. Right. There's no sick time, right? So you've got to prepare yourself and be healthy enough to be able to get through those tough times, because the stress alone of running even a successful business when everything is going well is still stressful. And so you really got to get yourself, physically prepared for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, listeners, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Landmark Life Coaching's vision is to be the nation's premier coaching partner for inspiring and empowering those in transition. They partner with courageous groundbreakers and transitioning veterans to create fulfilling and empowering futures that they desire. They have partnered with various entrepreneurs and transitioning veterans to leverage their core strengths and implement the framework for the future they always dreamed of. Could you or anyone you know benefit from a success partner to bring clarity to your future or their future? If so, please check out landmarklifecoaching.com for more information and charliemikepodcast.com for the Charlie Mike Podcast, showcasing the successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Okay, we are back with Michael Tacke talking about the amazing entrepreneurial path that he has been on. At this time, we're going to go into the In the Zone segment. We all love when we hit that sweet spot or get that feeling that we're doing what we are meant to do or are where we are meant to be. So let me ask you, Mike, what was that point when you knew being an entrepreneur was meant for you?
I don't know if I can remember a specific point, but I can, on a daily basis, something that keeps me motivated to stay in it is that satisfaction of like a transaction with a happy customer. And so I think that that first time I experienced that, I was like, wow, this is it. This is, I provide a service that somebody finds valuable, and we exchange value for value. They'll give me money, I give them this service or this product. And just that little magical transaction and the joy that, the satisfaction both parties get, that's a win-win for me. And I think that regardless of what the business does, if you can find satisfaction in that, that's the key to just being able to stay, in it and in the zone.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're in an entrepreneurial role and you're doing a business and you're trying to grow a business and you're just not enjoying it and it's not making you happy and you're not finding that satisfaction, then you're basically just doing another job. Yeah, and of which is what most entrepreneurs are trying to avoid. They want it to be like you alluded to in the beginning of our discussion was, I want this to be a lifestyle. I want to be around my family while I'm doing my business. I want to enjoy this with my wife, who's a partner in this and can really support me through this. And that's critical to have that family support. So yeah, that's really a good point for our listeners is if you are an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur, make sure whatever you're choosing to do, that you at the end of every day can feel fulfilled. Because if you're doing this and you're like, oh, I got to get up and do this again tomorrow, then you're probably not doing what you are meant to do from a entrepreneurial perspective, and you might want to take a step back and really look and see what adjustments you need to make.
Absolutely.
Mike, are there any tools or resources that you use, whether to run your business or as an entrepreneur in general that you think are like, golden nuggets? Like, okay, I'm glad I came across this or was introduced to this tool because it does, something really good for you?
I try to keep, if you're asking more of like, specifically like a day-to-day operations type of thing, I try to keep my business kind of more on the virtual end. Of course, I've got the trucks and the trailers that are out there on the road, and I have the drivers out there doing some hard work. But from the management of the business side, I try to, really take advantage of, just the software that's available to all of us today, from, cloud storage for documents, the ability to, electronically sign documents, and never have, I hate printing. I feel like, why am I printing this out? So I just really try to take advantage. And what I like about that, if I keep everything virtual, but, with that redundancy in place, I can run my business from anywhere that I have a cell phone connection. And that's kind of freeing. If you want to be able to pick up and go spend a weekend, away with the family somewhere, or if something unfortunate happens and you have to go maybe visit family in a bad situation, illness in the family, you have that flexibility. In my particular case, if you kind of keep your business more virtual instead of kind of analog. So that's something I've personally found to be really helpful, is really taking advantage of like the technology that's available to us today to do that, tracking the trucks with GPS and all that alert stuff that you can now get. And so those tools have been great. From a resources standpoint, I really took advantage early on of the Small Business Administration advisors to helping develop business plans. And there's a whole host of great resources that I personally used getting ready to come out of the military to start the business. There's an organization called Boots to Business that teaches veterans about, or actually while you're still active duty, about starting a business, what it's going to take, and helping you really make sure that you have a good perspective about that. And then there's a group called Bunker Labs that's in about 12 cities now nationwide, but Bunker Labs in Nashville particularly, their mission is launching the next great generation, and that's all about launching veteran-owned businesses. And so they've been a great resource for me. And of course, Lipscomb University, I'm in the MBA program there, and the professors and the network there is great. And then Syracuse University just recently accepted me into a program for their Veterans Career Transition Program. And they offer a whole list of technical certifications. I'm doing a PMP certification through them. So it's that continuing to develop and to continuing to learn type of thing.
Yeah, wow, you're really connected in this stuff. That's great. I think some entrepreneurs, they don't really, it's kind of once they get out there, they don't really look for these important resources that can really help them along. And all of these I've heard of all of these that you said, and they're all spot on, great resources to leverage. So that's great that you're leveraging all those. That's amazing.
Yeah, just try not to do it by yourself is the big message, I guess, right? Is don't try to do this in a bubble. Reach out and find that network. And the great thing is all of us being veterans, we inherently want to help each other. We're used to doing that. We genuinely want to. So if you get tied in with a veterans group like this podcast, the community that surrounds this podcast, that's a strong resource that you can leverage for years to come.
Absolutely, yeah. It's evergreen material, right? You get that information. That information goes out there. For example, out of a podcast, those interviews are always relevant. And so, once you connect to all the different veteran podcasts that are out there, you can really start to leverage the insight and knowledge of other veterans to help you grow. Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, what's your next major milestone for growing your business?
So, in that whole aspect I talked about earlier about adaptability, our 2016 was our launch year for our business. We launched in February. We had a good year. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of challenges, but it highlighted some opportunities, kind of some spin-off opportunities. So in 2017, that my company is working with some software developers to develop a software tool that we feel is going to make the operations run a lot more smooth in our company. It's going to allow us to serve more customers, going to help us to mitigate some risks that we might be exposed to right now. And so getting that tool spun up, we think is going to be the good thing in 2017 that's going to allow us to grow in 2018 and beyond.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the more you can automate your business with processes and software, the less time you spend working on it and you can work in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, Mike. And as we're wrapping up our time here, I'd like to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you or learn more about your business.
Well, if I would just give you a couple of personal ones. You can reach out to my business email at Tacke at jaxlog.com. M like Mike, Tacke Tango Alpha Charlie Kilo Echo at jaxlog.com. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message. Let me know you heard it on the podcast. I'd be glad to connect with you on LinkedIn at Michael Tacke. You'll find me as a program manager at SmartView Corporation. You'll see my owner of Veterans Heavy Haul Trucking on there. And like I said, connect, and I'd be happy to help share my resources with you. And so more than happy to do that if you're a veteran out there needing help.
Great. Well, thank you again for being on the show, and more importantly, thank you for your amazing service to our country.
No, thanks, Dwayne. And thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Remember, loyal listeners, we are the home of the free because of the brave.
Thank you for tuning in to Charlie Mike Podcast with Dwayne Paro. Our objective is to bring successful veteranpreneurs to help inspire and provide insight into what helped them become successful, with the hopes you can take away various strategies you can implement in your entrepreneurial journey. Visit us on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you thought of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hoorah!